So, how's everybody doing? Okay? You all right? Okay. All right, can we do a little bit of review, and then we're gonna take a look at Joseph. What do we, Jim, as a proviso, Jim will probably disagree with every word I'm about to say. But, yeah, he's more, Jim's more orthodox, I would say. But what can we say about the Gospels? Just blurt out anything you know about the Gospels that we've been talking about.
There's 4 of them.
There are 4. Excellent. Well, that's a good start. There are 4. There are 4. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Anybody else can say something about?
Some of the Gospels have the stories and some don't.
No.
No?
Some have the Christmas stories. That is absolutely correct. Thank you.
They're not written by the people whose names they have.
Right. So the Gospel of Matthew was not written by Matthew. The Gospel of Luke was not written by Luke. The Gospel of John was not written by John. The Gospel of Mark may have been written by Mark. Maybe. Maybe. They're written by, so who are they written by?
Followers of those,
That's
disciples
right.
of those people.
That's right, followers, and there's a really good chance that they were written by a group, not an individual. This Western again, we think individual. They're not, they don't have their heads on with that in mind. And the Gospel of John, for sure, was written by a group, a community. It was written by a community for communities.
How do you know that?
Well, I'm really smart. I mean, listen to, well, we have with the Johannine community, has been seen, discovered, that this was a very tight community, about, let's say, 90 to 120 AD. They call themselves the Beloved Community. And then they do, you can do sort of archaeological work with words. Like I've said stuff like this before, but if you blurt out the word at the diner, groovy, right? Can you date it?
Certainly.
Yeah, sure. Of course you can date it. Rad.
Oh, I get this.
See, and it's archaeologists will take plates and dinnerware and all this, and you can date that stuff, right? Who uses what, or fashion, you can pull that out and date it. And you can also do it with words. And you can also locate where that happens. Do it with music, no problem, easy, right? Easy to do with music. So that's how linguistic archaeologists, let's say, heuristic archaeologists, can both date what's going on, and if they're good at it, and if there's enough evidence, you can also place it somewhere. This happened here. Why? Because we know all the words and phrases, favorite phrases. Important dates will come out. They may not be important over here at Whitehall, but it's really important over here in New York City. You see what I mean? So you can start to geographically date this stuff. And you can also then say, well, this is a group that did this, obviously. You can go the other direction too, like the book of Hebrews. Is this worth talking about?
Yeah.
Okay. This is my world, right? This is my world.
When it was written in what? Hebrew?
The New Testament is written in Koine Greek.
Okay.
There are 2 kinds of Greek. Well, let me just finish the other thing first. Like with the book of Hebrews, it was always thought of that St. Paul wrote the book of Hebrews. No way did he write the book of Hebrews. Why? Because none of Paul's favorite words are in the book of Hebrews. None of his favorite phrases are in the book of Hebrews. None of his basic theological ideas are in the book of Hebrews. Like, if you really know someone, for instance, and you get a letter with their name on it, and you can tell this isn't them, right? They're not using this, they're not using this, they're not referring to this, they don't talk about this in this way. Can't be. Got to be somebody else. It's a forgery. Now, it may be somebody that has read St. Paul and wants to be a little bit like him, but definitely not St. Paul, not even close. And even people like Martin Luther, 500 years ago, John Calvin, everybody says, no way, it's not Paul. It may be Pauline, but it's not Paul. Okay? The Old Testament is written in Hebrew, all of it. The New Testament is written in Koine Greek. What's that? There are two choices. There were two choices, and a little bit of Aramaic when Jesus is speaking. It's Aramaic. It's a little bit similar. But back in the day, you had two choices. The New Testament writers had two choices. Some of them, if they had enough education, could have written in classical Greek. The Greek of the courts, the Greek of administration. The Romans wrote in Latin and in Greek. If they were in Palestine, they're writing in Greek. Classical Greek. If you went to Calvin College and you wanted to be a minister and go to seminary, you had to study classical Greek. Why? It was idiotic, and that's why I didn't go. I went to Western. What's the other one? Koine Greek.
How do you spell that?
Koine,
Yeah.
Koine. Koine. And you can trust me because I spell feet, F-I-E-T. Koine Greek is the Greek of streets, the Greek of the streets. It's what you'd hear fishermen, how they would talk. If you're in the Bronx, that's the Greek they would speak. Down at the wharf, that's how they're talking. It's slang Greek. Isn't that interesting? We call this our Holy Bible, and the New Testament's written in a very slangy Greek style. Why would they do that?
So more people would read it.
Right. That's right. That's right. Every Sunday morning I look out and say, who's my audience? How am I going to speak to you? If I'm in front of a bunch of lawyers, I'm not going to speak to them exactly like I would speak to you, because you're my audience.
Because they would argue with
Sorry?
you. They would argue with you.
And they do. Yeah, I got a lot of lawyers that are friends of mine. But anyway, the intention, and we can speak theologically about this too, in the sense that if your intention is to communicate to as many people as possible, what does that suggest theologically, as far as God is concerned?
You have to talk like they talk.
Yeah. But why? Who cares? Who cares? We have a kind of a caste system in some ways, right? Who cares about these people down here? Who cares? Shouldn't you be communicating with classical Greek to the people that matter? You see where I'm going with this? Yeah.
So Jesus totally flipped that. He
Yeah.
wanted to read
Absolutely flipped it.
everyone.
Yep. There was most societies have some version of a caste system. People who are down here, people in the middle, people up on top, the little 5% up here. And these are, in every society, you may hate it, But every society basically says, really, these are the people that matter. That little group here. And the advent of Jesus, it's not that he doesn't care about wealthy people and powerful people, because he interacts with them too, but he flips it. And as I've said before, is that a fair reading of history, his life, death, and resurrection? Is that fair to say that? Is it true? And who cares? Well, I think we should care a lot, because Jesus cares about this huge group down here, how he acts, how he speaks, and the rest of the New Testament takes that on. St. Paul could have written in classical Greek, but he doesn't. We're aiming it at people that constantly are told that they don't matter and that they're stuck. You're never going to rise from where you are. Never. That was Greek culture, that was Roman culture, that's culture around the world throughout history. You're never going to change. You are stuck. Your dad's a farmer, you're going to be a farmer. You're a woman, you're going to be in the house. Nothing's going to happen to you. You're stuck. You are going to be where you are for the rest of your life, and your children will be too. And the next generation, and the next generation, and the next generation. It's a frozen social world. Jesus says, forget that. That's not the way the kingdom of God is going to work. If you've got talent, if you've got gifts, where everybody does, those talents, because you're a person of God, they are going to take you somewhere. You see what I mean? And Koine Greek is a perfect example of that. Otherwise, why talk to them? They're stuck. They're frozen. Not in the Bible.
I guess that's why his parables were so popular, because that's the way it is.
Exactly. And you can see, I think if you're an American, if you've been here, if you consider yourself a U.S. citizen, or you've experienced America, let's say, that kind of thing is bred into us, that thinking. That thinking is not universal around the world and through history, right? So this resonates with us, because this is also our political experience as well, unless you're a person of color, and then maybe not. But I think we struggle with that. But that is, we are a people that are free. We have liberty. We have happiness is important. These are all huge biblical themes. We didn't make this up ourselves. We were given this because of this book. For the most part. I mean, we have some philosophers coming out of France that help us too. That's a long-winded answer. But, what I want to give you prior to my death is I want to be able to lift this hood up for you. Not just to read the stories and know the stories, as important as that is, it's very important, I think, to know them intimately. But I want to give you a chance to see what's under the hood. Okay? All right. So we talked a little bit about how the Gospels are written backwards. Can anyone speak to that? You're at the diner and somebody says, "What are you talking about?" How would you put it?
Well, actually, the infancy narratives wouldn't matter if Jesus didn't rise from the dead.
Right. None of it matters. Yeah. If Jesus does not rise from the dead, nothing matters. Just go. I'm going to go work at Costco or something. Yeah. Nothing matters. Yeah. Yeah. So that is the event of the whole Bible, is the resurrection of Jesus. If Jesus is not resurrected, nothing matters. If he is resurrected, if he has been resurrected, then everything matters. You See what I mean? Even St. Paul says that. If the resurrection did not happen, we are to be most pitied, he said. Because the whole thing is a joke, it's a sham, it's a lie. So when Jesus is resurrected from the dead on the first Easter, that is what is proclaimed. You can well imagine, right? I mean, it's unbelievable. Incredible that a person can be dead for 3 days and rising up from the dead, as he said he would be. So that's what's being preached, that's what's being talked about. It's electric all over Jerusalem and in the surrounding areas. People are just, well, it's a showstopper, right? Everywhere, at the market, at dinner time, people are just talking about it everywhere. And there are about 500 witnesses to it, somewhere in that range, 500. And so that's all that was being talked about. And Jesus also said, I'm coming back soon, so let's hustle. You gotta hustle, get that word out. That is what was going on right after Jesus was raised from the dead, the first resurrection, the resurrection of Jesus. And then time elapsed, right? Is this all familiar speech now? Time elapsed. So now we're going to talk about, people are asking, well, what did he teach? Did he teach anything? And then we're working backwards now, right? Okay, yeah. There's a lot of people that heard him teach and preach. I was in the synagogue. This is what he said. Great. I saw him talk to the Samaritan woman. What? You did? What was that like? So they're piecing all this together, going backwards. They're writing it backwards now. And then obviously, the obvious next stage is, well, does anybody know anything about his birth? Answer, Mary. Mary must know something about his birth, but guess what? What we see in the narrative stories doesn't jive at all. Those stories don't jive. So we've got a couple of choices. Either they're just lies, they're just made up lies, or we go another direction when we read the Bible, and that is there's stories with a theological import. That's what they're still true. Forgive me, Jim, if you're watching. They didn't happen in history, or maybe parts of them did, little pieces of them did. But that's not why they're written. They're written to tell us about God. But they're not historical stories. And that is so hard for us to get our heads around that. It's like seeing a trout in a stream for the first time. Oh, that's what it looks like. But we have a thing with history. Westerners love history. We love science. If we can't prove it, it's not true. If it didn't happen, it's not true. The Bible does not agree with that. The Bible will say what's true, and can we build a story around it? You do it. That's not true everywhere, but I think it's definitely true with the Christmas stories. They're trying to make a theological point. And then last week, or the first week, whatever that was, last week, I guess, 2 weeks ago, the big issue when these things were written in Matthew and Luke, the big issue was we've got to make a bridge to the Old Testament. Otherwise, we're not legit. We're not legitimate. After 85 AD, remember that date? 85 AD is when the rabbis in Jerusalem and surrounding areas said, look, if you're a Jewish Christian, get out. Get out, because you have nothing to do with us. So after 85 AD, 50 years after Jesus' ministry, the Jewish Christians said, well, who are we now? We have to make this bridge now between what we know Jesus to be, he's the Messiah, and the Old Testament. We have to make that bridge, and that is what is happening in Matthew and Luke, of bridge making between the Old Testament and the resurrected Jesus. So now we're legit, and because they did that, here we are. We're in this very place at Lyall, because they did that. Okay? That's all, I'm throwing a lot of information at you, but some of it's repeat, right? You've heard it before? Okay. Well, any questions about that, or is it too much? Is it, you're okay? You're hanging? Okay. Well, let's go to a good example of that. Matthew 1:18 through 25. Matthew is going to focus on Joseph. Luke is going to focus on Mary. Okay? Whatever I said?
18,
1:18 through somewhere.
25.
Okay. Somebody want to read that little section?
Now the birth of Jesus the Messiah took place in this way. When his mother Mary had been engaged to Joseph, but before they lived together, she was found to be with child from the Holy Spirit. Her husband Joseph, being a righteous man and unwilling to expose her to public disgrace, planned to dismiss her quietly. But just when he had resolved to do this, an angel of the Lord appeared to him in a dream and said, Joseph, son of David, do not be afraid to take Mary as your wife, for the child conceived in her is from the Holy Spirit. She will bear a son, and you are to name him Jesus, for he will save his people from their sins. All this took place to fulfill what had been spoken by the Lord through the prophet. Look, the virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and they shall name him Emmanuel, which means God is with us. When Joseph awoke from sleep, he did as the angel of the Lord commanded him. He took her as his wife, but had no marital relations with her until she bore a son, and he named him Jesus.
Who called him Jesus?
Well,
Joseph.
Joseph.
Right. See, here we go. Okay, I want to have us take a look at two different things. One is the person of Joseph, and the other is allusions to Old Testament prophecies. Okay, let's take Joseph first. Is there another Joseph in the Bible?
The one with
All right, we're making bridge. We're going to make bridges now. That's what we're doing. We're going to make a bridge.
The one with the coat.
That's right, Joseph, the multicolored coat.
I saw that show.
Did you? How was
It was
it?
great.
Was it?
It was great, yeah. Oh, that was 100 years
What was
ago.
the name of that thing? Joseph and his...
The Amazing Technicolor Dream.
That's it. Yeah, it was good, huh?
It was absolutely
Oh,
great.
terrific, okay. So, we've got a Joseph here, and we have a Joseph in the Old Testament. What do we know about the one in the Old Testament? What was he like?
He was a kid,
Brat.
he was a dreamer.
He was a brat, he was a kid, he was a
Dreamer.
dreamer,
A killer, too.
and a killer. Yeah. Was it? His brothers wanted to kill him.
But I thought isn't that why he had to leave or something, because he killed someone?
Moses.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's quite all right. Makes me feel superior.
No problem there.
Yeah, once I leave the building, all that falls apart, as you know. You know that, right? You know that. Okay, so Joseph, the Joseph of the Old Testament is a big dreamer, right? Yes?
Yes.
Yeah, for sure. He's got lots of dreams. And do you remember how those dreams function? What do they do? Why does the Old Testament Joseph get those dreams?
His family was, the dreams was serving to him.
That's the first one, right?
They,
Yeah, for sure. You're going to bow down to me, right? They loved it. But then there were other dreams too along the way. With the Old Testament Joseph, there's a lot of dreams. What were some of the other ones? Remember?
Well, he dreamt of the brothers bowing down to him, and then when he went to Egypt, didn't he dream about the cup guy, or I don't know, the guys that were in prison with him?
Mhm. You're gonna make it, you're gonna get hung,
Baker.
you're gonna lose your head, right? There's the baker, another guy. Yeah, so he starts, and then now he's got a reputation for dreaming and that coming true. The Pharaoh finally finds out about it. We want this guy, this guy who can tell the future. And then there's another one, right, where he said he sees, I think I'm botching this, but he sees seven cows that are emaciated, that are really fat, and then he sees another 7 that are emaciated. He interprets that dream, we're doing great right now. We're gonna have 7 years of plenty. Then we're gonna have 7 years of famine, right? So we gotta get ready for that. So let's build storehouses, get our grain, and store it up. And then the reason for that is that Joseph's family, who thought he was dead, there's a famine all throughout that area, and so Joseph's family have to go to Egypt to get grain, and it saves Joseph's family, and it saves, here's the theology, and it saves the story. If that family goes down, they are the carriers of God's story, right? You see where I'm going with this? If that family goes down, the story goes down. So they have to be saved. And Joseph sees that. He gets it. And eventually they get it too. God bless you for that. I mean, Karen, I've said a lot of horrible things about you, but I take back a lot of them.
You are forgiven. That was confession.
I've never had a little pot candy. That's nice. It's good.
Yeah.
I could eat a whole bag of those.
Oh,
I'm kidding. You didn't hear what I said. We'll probably do that. So you see how theology works into it? Works into the story of the Old Testament. Now we're going to get another one with this Joseph, the new one, the New Testament Joseph. He is going to be a dreamer. What else do we know about him? We'll read it. What else do we know about Joseph? Where does his story go? He's a dreamer.
He's very humble.
He's humble and righteous, total opposite of the first Joseph. Where's his family going to wind up?
In Egypt.
Yep,
Yeah, they
Both?
flee to Egypt,
they go to Egypt because they are being
persecuted.
persecuted.
The firstborn son
Herod, who's the Herod family,
is threatened.
they are mentally ill like you wouldn't believe. And they are paranoid and angry, and so he hears from the Magi, that story of the Magi. Thanks a lot for telling me. For wise men, that was pretty stupid in my view. They tell the wrong person what's going on, so he's going to slaughter kids from the ages of whatever, 2 to 7 or something like that. Kills, 100 kids. And Joseph will get a dream to get out of there and be saved in Egypt. Just like the first Joseph, his dreams created the same scenario where his family is going to be saved. And the story, I've got water here. I gotta stop talking. Just water.
What was it about Egypt that everybody, how far away was it?
It's not that far away.
So it was a city for them? It was a bigger city for them to flee to?
Country. It was kind of the United States. If people were in trouble, it was stable. It was the power in that area, in both stories.
So people immigrated to it?
That's right. Yeah. And then they put their kids in cages and so on, like we do. No, they didn't do that. But yeah, you're gonna go to you're gonna take your family to the safest spot you can. In both stories, separated by 1,800 years, similar things are happening. And that now, again, we're making bridges, theological bridges. So Jewish Christians after 85 AD can say, look, you know, our Joseph in our story is very similar to the one in the Old Testament. So there's a bridge there. You see it? You see it? There's similarities there. We're legit. Yes? Got it? Yeah, my mother wanted to make a bridge to, I think, the Rockefellers or something. So crazy. When I was a kid. To which I said, where's the money? And that story dies. But anyway, so that's a parallel. So we all see that. We're going to see more of them, right? These strands, maybe that's one way to look at it. It's like a suspension bridge here. And that's one strand. That story is one strand. That first vision, we're going to call, you're going to hang tough with Mary. You're going to stay with her. And you're going to name this child Jesus. Even though he had every right to throw her out. Don't do it. Don't do it. You know, this is part of God's story. It's impossible that she would be pregnant without having known a man. The Bible couldn't care less about impossible. Couldn't care less, because God can do all things. Right? If you're big into impossible, you'll never be a Christian. Because the Bible will rub our noses in that over and over and over and over. And we are adults, we know how things work, and the Bible says, so what? You know, that's your problem, not our problem. Your lack of faith and belief is your problem, not our problem. Doesn't care. God does impossible things. So what? So anyway, kind of funny, isn't it? If you're a smart person, it's so offensive. I think. The Bible is so offensive. One story after the next is ridiculous. The resurrection, ridiculous. This story, ridiculous, preposterous. Can't happen. The Bible says, no, that's your problem. Doesn't
The
care.
Old Testament has stories like that.
Buckets of them. Well, Abraham and Sarah, it starts right in, it's,
Jonah and the whale.
right, and it just goes
Ladder
on.
to heaven.
Right. And I think it's also a temptation. People, I think, make this mistake too. Jim would love it if he was here. You can't make everything mythological either. Because it boils down also to our lives. Like you don't think you can, it's impossible for you to be a doctor. Because of this, and this. And we can say, you know, maybe it's a mythological doctor that you could be, or you know, we want to make it right. You know, what God gives us. God promises this, and this. What it really means is, you know, spiritually, you're going to be a doctor, right, or something. I'm just talking about, you know. But you hear people like that say that kind of stuff all the time too. No, you are going to be an MD. You see what I mean? How do I want to say this? Well, you know what I'm talking about. When
People want to put restrictions.
That's right, and make it believable. And I think that's kind of a mistake too. Barack Obama, you are a black man, you're going to be the president of the United States. Never. Never. Not in this country. Never. Never. Never, never, never. Right? So spiritually, you'll be like a president. we're gonna call you El Presidente. You know, we're gonna make it, you know, we're gonna make it believable. But it's this, it's not that. But he becomes president of the United States, 2 terms. You see what I'm talking about? So you gotta kind of watch it that way too. To over-spiritualize something. Whereas Joseph could have said to the angel, oh yes, she's virginal in a sense. You know what I mean? I've heard people use that word too. I'm virginal. Well, you're not a virgin. Of course I'm not a virgin, but I'm virginal. And try to make it good. Try to make it okay, right? The Bible said, no, she's a virgin. She's an absolute virgin. You're going to have to deal with this impossibility. Sorry. And he does. He does. He buys it.
Well, wasn't there some people that said she was only 12 or 13 or something?
Yeah, oh yeah, 13, 14, I've heard, not older than 15, I've never heard that. Yeah, she's just a kid. Just a kid. When we take a look at Luke, we'll see what kind of a kid she is, what kind of words are put on her mouth. The Magnificat is no joke. Also theological. So you see where I'm going with this? He gets this dream. You're dealing with this young woman who's a virgin. We want you to hang in there. You're going to marry her. She's going to bear a son. You're going to call him Jesus. And he says, okay, I'm in. It's one thing to be given a dream. It's another thing to act on it. Yes? Okay. And both Josephs do that. So we got this bridge going. All right. I think I've talked that into fine dust. The second thing, though, has to do with prophecies from the Old Testament that are applied to Jesus. And we've got a big one right here, too, right? Can someone identify it in the passage? Kind of, you'll see it as it is written, as it was written.
Yeah, the virgin will conceive and bear a son, and they shall call him Emmanuel. So who said that?
Matthew was saying that. Is it? Or is that part of the vision?
Well, it doesn't say what the prophet said.
Yeah, there it goes. It says in 22, all this, now this is Matthew, the group, Matthew, saying all this took place to fulfill what the Lord had spoken by the prophet. See, it all was in the Old Testament. Now we're going to make a bridge this way. We're going to start making a bridge here, the suspension bridge between Old Testament and our story over here. We're part of this. We're part of this story way back, right? Okay, and where's that come from?
What prophet said that?
Isaiah. That's in Isaiah 7:14. That's what my little Bible says. Behold, the virgin. See, it's happening. It's happening. We've got a bridge here. Behold, the virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and his name will be called Emmanuel. Now we're gonna. No one called him Emmanuel. Do you know any stories in the Bible, in the Gospels, where somebody says, "Hail Emmanuel"? They always call him Jesus, right, or Lord. Or,
So why is that?
why is that? You know, it's like saying, yeah, we've got some proof text here, except, you know, the problem is they don't work. Part of them does. Part of it works. This is a good example of doing theology. They're doing theology. They didn't call Jesus Emmanuel, which means God is with us. But they're going to make theology here.
Could it be because it was written in a different language, that Jesus is the Greek way?
It's not. Yeah, it could. I guess it could have been. But Emmanuel does not equate Jesus.
No.
No. But this is who he is. This This is the content of his life, is God is with us. That's theology. Nobody called him Emmanuel. What's the matter?
She's saying, so his first name was Emmanuel, and I'm saying, no, he was never called Emmanuel.
No, they never called him. In fact, there's a lot of words for Jesus in the Old. That we're going to see other examples where they're tying Old Testament names to Jesus, and he's never called that. Never called that. So they're saying we're claiming that because this is who he is. He's God with us. Yeah.
So why didn't they call him Emmanuel if it isn't an angel from God? So
The angel didn't say this. This is the writers now are saying, and this is why in the Old Testament, Jesus will be born from a virgin. That's a tie, and he will be called Emmanuel. No, he's not.
So this is the writer.
That's the writer. That's not the angel.
Okay.
The angel's the one that says, "Hang tough, Joseph. This is crazy. This is crazy. Hang tough." And he
So
will.
I have never really read any of the prophets in the Old Testament. And I've often thought maybe I should, because you're always seeing it as a reference.
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm just kind of thinking in my head, well then what was what were the prophets, what was the significance of them coming and shedding this light in the Old Testament and it being propelled? Like there's quite a few prophets, right?
Mm-hmm.
So a prophet, I think we always think it's a person who can foresee the future, but that's not true, right?
That's part of it. A prophetic voice is, well, we're going to talk about prophets now. Thanks, Diane.
Oh,
That's lovely.
I like the prophets, thank you, Diane.
Yeah, well, just to give you a heads up, for 34 years in liturgy, if you follow my august career, for 34 years in the liturgy will be the prophets every Sunday. Especially Isaiah. Yeah. Here's a thumbnail sketch of the prophets. The prophets were not known as much for telling the future, which they did. They were known far more for telling the present. They saw the present as it is. And if you see the present as it is, if you do that with your own life, for instance, I see my life as it is. It doesn't take a genius from Harvard to know what's next. You see what I mean? If you can describe the white elephants in your room, let's say, it doesn't take a genius to figure out what's going to happen next. Oh, I'm drinking every night. 8 shots of vodka. I'm pretty sure something bad's going to happen next, right?
So then how did they get the notoriety? What made them special? If I'm sure any person could sit there and recognize where they're at. What made these people
Well,
so...
I don't think it's as common as you think. Do people really know what's going on? And to thicken the plot a little bit, back in the day, if you claim to be a prophet and you got it wrong, you're dead. You get stoned as a prophet, you're put to death. You get it wrong.
So they would tell people that they were prophets? They would go out and say, hey, I'm a prophet. And I'm thinking that they're going to give their point of view on what's happening in their world right now.
Some of them were official prophets to the king. They were part of the government in that sense. Wouldn't it be nice if you were a king or a president to have somebody near you who said, look, this is what's going on?
advisor.
right? An advisor, and if this keeps going on, this is what's gonna happen. You see what I mean? And the prophets were kind of funny too. Almost all of them were like this. So when things were great, they would be prophets of doom and gloom. They were almost always on the wrong foot. I mean, everybody's, cheering is fantastic. It's just before the Wall Street crash, people are having a ball, the Great Gatsby, all that kind of stuff. They would say, yeah, keep it up, just wait. That's a prophetic voice. The Old Testament was like that. It's funny. And then, of course, the powers that be hated them for that. They tried to shut them up, right? Because things are great, No, they're not. No, they're horrible. And the opposite was true, too. When things were just horrible, they would say, cheer up, good times are coming. They're always, anyway, because they could see.
What happened what did Isaiah see that prompted him to say that there's going to be a prophet named Emmanuel, a
Messiah. Well, the whole, by the way, the book of Isaiah has 3 Isaiahs. There are 3 Isaiahs serving 3 different time periods. If I could make that complicated. You want to have I assume you want to have a headache when you leave here. But there are 3 different Isaiahs. Some would say 4, but most people say 3. 3 different time periods. And this idea of a Messiah becomes clarified over time. You don't get this with Abraham and Sarah, right? It's the Abrahamic covenant. It's I will bless you. You'll become a blessing. Through you, all the nations of the earth will bless themselves. Well, we don't know how. We don't know how that's going to work. But as the Old Testament moves forward, and we're talking about 1,500 years, it develops. It starts to develop, and it is the prophets. That's too strong. The prophets play a role in developing who the Messiah is going to be. It's going to go through the line of David, right? That's Joseph, right? Joseph is a part of it. That's why he's in Bethlehem. And do you understand the role of development? There's a lot of development in the Old Testament and the New Testament too. So people will say things like, well, God doesn't change. Well, God maybe doesn't change. God keeps God's essential character. I believe that. But the story changes. It doesn't change. The story develops.
What's the difference between a prophet and a disciple?
Well, I've described a prophet. A disciple is someone who has followed Jesus. A disciple of Jesus, let's say, is someone who followed him, heard him, watched him, participated.
So a prophet would...
Eyewitness. A follower is a disciple. Whereas a prophet, no, go ahead.
It leads to Jesus, but anyone that profited Jesus, did they get to see Jesus?
No. None of the prophets do. No, they lived way, way before Jesus.
Okay.
Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years before Jesus.
Okay.
The idea of Jesus being the Lamb of God Lamb of God who takes away the sins of the world, that's all prophetic stuff. They're also doing theology. The prophets are shaping theology through their visions, their dreams. And here's a contradiction of what I've said with everything else. They've got all this stuff over here. And then hundreds of years, if not thousands of years later, it happens. That's also true. It's cool.
I wish we had a prophet now.
We do. We killed them. Martin Luther King, prophetic voice, kill them. We kill prophets. And they did in the Old Testament too. They kill them. You don't like what they have to say. You don't like it. Prophets don't last very long, usually. Prophets in Russia, who was the guy that was running against Vladimir Putin? You know? Just slaughter that guy, just attack that guy, you know. Yeah, prophets. Well, I guess the question is, does anyone care about the truth? Does anyone in power care about the truth? I mean, how do you read Washington, D.C. right now, Congress? Does anybody care about the truth? I don't think so. Well, not a lot of people. They care about their own careers. We see that over and over again.
I guess the thing you have to be careful of today would be, how do you know they're a prophet, or are they someone like Hitler?
Right?
Because I'm sure people thought Hitler was a prophet.
Definitely. He had over a 60% approval rating, Hitler did, after the war. If that's not sick, I don't know what is. Yeah, yeah. I went to see, have you ever seen a tarot card reader or something like that? I went to one, somebody wanted me to go to one, so I thought that was weird, but if you're from Michigan, you don't do that sort of thing. But I went there and sat down, she was very nice, and I said, look, can we agree on something? She said, sure. I said, if you get it wrong, I'll get to stone you to death.
And what was her reaction?
Really? Why would just, this is for entertainment purposes. I said, well, then I'll be entertained.
And unfortunately, some people don't, they believe it's true, not that it's entertainment, and then that's where you.
I know it, yeah, so she was a little nervous. Give me your best shot. And afterwards, if I had held true, I would have stoned her to death. You know, if your life is on the line, this is one of the things that, if your life is on the line and you're still willing to tell the truth, I would take that person more seriously.
Are pastors prophets?
I think some pastors can be. It can be. I think it's a gift. It's an office, the office of prophet. We say that Jesus was prophet, priest, and king. For instance, he had all three of those offices. So, and look what they did to him. Right? Sorry for this. We're going to keep with this theme. So if it's really a foreign idea, we'll keep reinforcing it. But you can see a little bit of it now, right? Bridge building. Theology. Maybe it doesn't matter if it happened, but it certainly matters if it's true. Okay, we done enough for today? All right. So I suspect Jim will be here next week, and he'll be on.
Thank you. Well, thank you again for another week of,
This is Pastor Appreciation Month.
oh, it is?
And
And thank you for being
Go.
an interesting pastor.
Yes.
you mean Well,
Thank you for being a very good pastor.
Well, thanks. Thanks for saying that. I've never known there was a pastor appreciation month.
It's a Hallmark moment.
Is it?
Yeah.
Well, that's why I don't know.
Do they have cars for it now?
I believe
They probably
I probably need to have cable TV again.